So today I want to talk about a polarizing, but what I think is a fascinating topic, and that's Donald Trump. And whether or not you agree with Donald Trump is not part of this story. I just want to talk about his story, at least as I understand it. So, obviously I wasn't there. But before Donald Trump became one of the most polarizing figures in modern history, he was just a boy from Queens. A boy growing up in a home that valued strength and power and control above all else. And Donald Trump was the fourth of five children born to Fred and Mary Trump. His father was described as ambitious, hard driving real estate magnate who was known for being strict and emotionally distant, but really unrelenting in his focus on winning. And in that house, there wasn't a lot of room for softness. Feelings were seen as weakness, and love often looked more like approval, not affection. And when Donald was 13, his parents sent him off to the New York Military Academy, not necessarily as a punishment, but to straighten him out. And while he later said that he thrived in this strict competitive environment, that decision to send him there also sent a very clear message. The message was your behavior is too much. You need to be fixed. Lock it up. And Donald watched his older brother, Fred Jr., struggle under the same pressures and ultimately losing his life to alcoholism. And Fred Jr.'s sensitivity didn't survive in a world that demanded toughness. And Donald learned to never let his guard down. So when we look at who Donald Trump became, the bravado, the dominance, the defensiveness, it helps us to understand where it started. And this isn't about justifying the behavior. It's about seeing the human being, the wounded child, behind the persona that we now see. And this child who may have learned early on that love must be earned, that vulnerability is dangerous, and that winning is the only way to be safe, to be loved. And this explains why Trump tries to crush anyone who disagrees with him. Because to him, blind loyalty is love. And that's what we're all ultimately looking for is love. And we don't have to agree with someone's beliefs or actions to be curious about their pain. And sometimes understanding the roots of that pain, the roots of our people in power, helps us to understand the wounds behind every action that they take, every word that they choose, every thought that they have. Because every leader was once a child. And some of them are still leading from these wounded child parts. And so what I'm really asking for is a lot of people are telling me, okay, you're going to get into this race and it's going to be brutal and they're going to attack you and they're going to pull all of the skeletons out of your closet. And I'm like, great. Like, great, let's talk about it. Let's talk about my roots. Let's talk about my skeletons because that has made me who I am. And while there are decisions that I would make differently now, now that I'm smarter, now that I've worked through my trauma, um, those are still decisions that have shaped me. And so what I'm really asking for is compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for your bad behavior, compassion for the bad behavior of the people around you, because for the most part, they're doing the best that they know how, the best that they can, given their current understanding, given their level of trauma that they've processed. And so my hope for this campaign season is that we can have compassion because there's definitely, I would say, two ways to lead a campaign. We can either choose to tear the other person down in the hopes that it lifts us up, or we can choose to understand each other. We can choose to have compassion, and we can choose to work together to create a better, more loving America. And so that is my hope. And so my question for today is, where can you show someone in your life a little more compassion? Maybe someone whose behavior you've defined as bad behavior, someone that you're like, okay, I need to set boundaries with this person. Um, where can we maybe open up our hearts to embrace them, to embrace their pain, and maybe even it's us that we need to embrace. It's ourself that we need to show a little more compassion, because that inner voice that tells us we're wrong and we're doing things wrong, it's really strong. So two questions today: where can I show other people more compassion, and how can I show myself more compassion? And again, my hope is that America chooses love and compassion.